Good evening, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. This is Rich again, back for your third and final video blog of the night for Sunday, September 14, 2014, around 8:10 p.m. in Billerica, Massachusetts. It's dark out and it's going to be a frosty night around here. Highs in the upper 30s to low 40s. And if you're seeing this blog from New Hampshire and Vermont, there's a frost advisory, so bring your plants back in because it could be a possibility of a killing frost for them, and that fall's coming in about a week away. Some news to report: LA Dodgers pitcher Clayton Kershaw won his Major League Baseball leading 19th game of the year today by beating the Giants by the score 4-2. Kershaw's going to win the NL MVP this year because Marlins outfielder Giancarlo Stanton's going to miss the rest of the year because of being hit by a pitch a couple of days ago. And that's about it for the news. My third and final video blog of the night is about game show host, actor, comedian, and singer Peter Marshall. Peter Marshall's famous for hosting the original Hollywood Squares from 1966 through 1981. Peter Marshall was born in Huntington, West Virginia, under the name Ralph Pierre Lecoq. He moved to New York City as a teenager. His first job was working as an usher in a theater. And then also he worked as a page for NBC when he was younger. And then he went into the world of entertainment. He formed a comedy team with Tommy Noonan and they appeared in several nightclubs, TV variety shows, and films. He appeared in several films with Tommy Noonan as a comedy team. And after they broke up as a comedy team, Peter was guest starring on TV and movies, but he didn't get a real steady gig until 1966 as like his photo was sitting on the desk of Mella Hitler and Bob Quigley, the producers of Hollywood Squares, and they had the concept Hollywood Squares of a game show with 9 celebrities in a tic-tac-toe setting. And the host of the pilot of the Hollywood Squares, Bert Parks, the network didn't really like Bert Parks, and they were going to give the job to Dan Rowan, who was a comedian, but Maury Amsterdam, who was a regular on the Hollywood Squares pilot, wanted Peter Marshall to host it, and he begged the producers Bob Quigley and Mel Heatley to give Peter Marshall a chance, and Peter Marshall took it and became host of the Hollywood Squares. And he said in a book that he wrote in 2002 about the backstage with originals Hollywood Squares, he wanted to take the job as host of Hollywood Squares because Dan Rowland stole comedy material from him and Tommy Noonan to be used on Rowan's and Martin's Laugh-In in the late 60s, early 70s. And for the next 15 years, Peter Marshall was hosted of the Hollywood Squares, and he said some of the jokes, questions to celebrities like Rosemary and Maury Amsterdam and Abby Dalton and Wally Cox, and Charlie Weaver was played by Cliff Arquette, and George Gobel, and the most famous was the Center Square, Paul Lynde. Him and Paul Lynde were like very funny when they were asking the questions. And it was real popular, the Hollywood Squares on NBC. It won several Emmys for Best Game Show Host. Peter Marshall won a couple of Emmys for Best Daytime Game Show Host. And around this time, Peter Marshall appeared as himself in several television shows and guest starring roles in other shows and movies. And he also had a singing career as well. And he also has hosted his own variety show in syndication around 1976, as when the peak of Hollywood Squares' popularity was on NBC and a syndication, but that variety show only lasted 5 months due to budget restrictions of like an orchestra that Peter Marshall brought, and the producers wanted to cut back on the orchestra because to save money, but he decided not to, so the show only lasted 20 weeks. And Peter Marshall continued to host the Hollywood Squares into 1980 when NBC canceled it after 13 and a half seasons on the air. But the show was still popular. It went into syndication for a year, filming an entire year in Las Vegas. And that's what kind of killed the show, because most of the time during the tapings of Hollywood Squares, the producers and the celebrities and Peter Marshall were gambling a lot, and that affected the quality of the show and stuff. And then they weren't getting the ratings in syndication and in NBC, so they canceled the Hollywood Squares in syndication, and that ended his 15-year run as host of the Hollywood Squares. Then Peter Marshall hosted several other television shows like Fantasy, which was kind of a part game show, part human interest show, part reality show. He co-hosted it with Leslie Uggams, and that lasted a year on NBC from October 1982 through October 1983, but it got low ratings and several NBC affiliates did not show it. It was not shown in Boston at all because WBZ TV4 actually showed reruns of Hawaii Five-0 in the time slot. So other NBC stations, I think I remember WJAH TV10 Providence showed Fantasy. I saw it a couple of times on YouTube. Wasn't the best show. Wasn't the best show to like be on the air. And also, he hosted All-Star Blitz, a game show Peter Marshall did for ABC in 1985 for about 7 months. It was Hollywood Squares meets Wheel of Fortune type game, but with 4 celebrities. But it didn't click. And also, Peter Marshall hosted a game show Yahtzee in syndication in 1988 for about 7-8 months. But that show ran into financial trouble. I heard a lot of the contestants didn't get paid, and the celebrities who were on there didn't get paid as well. And afterwards, like in 1989, Peter Marshall was going to hosted a pilot for a new game show called Third Degree, produced by Burt Reynolds and Bert Convy, and the pilot sold, and Peter Marshall was tapped, that was slated to be the host when it started production as a regular series, but Bert Convy took over Peter Marshall's role as host without him getting notified, and his services were no longer needed, and Peter Marshall sued Bert Convy for breach of contract, but it was dropped because Bert Convy's had health problems, and Peter Marshall said in his book Backstage of the Hollywood Squares, the 2 people he hated the most were Dan Rowan and Bert Convy. Also during this time, Peter Marshall starred in several plays and stage actors for several off-Broadway plays and stuff. And he also was a singer, big band singer. He hosted his last television show in 1998 regularly called the Reel to Reel Picture Show. It was a movie game show for the fledgling PAX network. It was produced at Orlando's Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida. It was a popular game show with like movies and stuff, movie trivia. It garnered high ratings for PAX, and we're going to move the production from Orlando to Los Angeles, but the production company that had Reel to Reel Picture Show went bust, and none of the contestants got paid. Peter Marshall didn't get paid, or the celebrities didn't get paid. And that ended his run as like hosting television shows. He still like appeared like in TV specials about game shows and stuff. In 2002, he wrote a book about the backstage of the Hollywood Squares. Was a great selling book. I have the book in my library, and it was such a good book that that he appeared in the new version of Hollywood Squares hosted by Tom Bergeron in December 2002. He actually got to host one taping of the show, the Thursday edition, and it was real good to have him back as host as Hollywood Squares for one time only, and he did a pretty good job. And since then, Peter Marshall been on host a radio show called The Music of Your Life, talking about the great music back in the day of the big band swinging era and stuff like that. You could listen to it on the internet radio, and he's also released several CDs of his music. And Peter Marshall is he was his sister was the late actress Joanne Drew, and he had a son who played Major League Baseball. His name was Pete LaCock, and he played 4 years in Major League Baseball, and then he played a season of Japan. And so Peter Marshall has a few famous relatives, and I think Peter Marshall's one of the most best successful game show hosts who used his game show success to broaden his career in acting and singing, which is pretty good. He's probably known for being the master of the original Hollywood Squares, but he's had a decent career for acting and singing, and you gotta give them that. Sometimes when people host game shows, they could be typecast as just game show hosts, but Peter Marshall proved that he used game shows as a stepping stone to be successful in other stuff, and you got to give him credit for that, because other times when actors or somebody else hosts a game show, they could have the typecast of them thinking they're only a game show host, and they won't consider them for doing other stuff. And that's about it on that. I'll be back tomorrow for at least 3 to 6 more video blogs. One video blog that I'm confirming right now will be the 10 greatest Boston Red Sox players of all time. And then I'll be eventually doing all 30 teams of Major League Baseball, but not right away. I might do the famous teams first and then the other teams. And also I'm going to maybe do the top 10 famous pitchers of each Yankees and Red Sox soon. And also the other people, the personality profiles and stuff like that. And coming October 1st is my 2014-2015 NHL preview blog, okay? Have a good night, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. Bye now.